years ago, I had this list in my head. I never dreamt that I'd get to the end of that list. So I've decided to end my River Monsters.
Jeremy Wade is more than just a fisherman. He's a biologist, an adventurer, and the face behind one of the most gripping shows on television, River Monsters. For nearly a decade, viewers followed him into the world's most dangerous waters, chasing creatures that blurred the line between myth and reality. But then, without warning, the show was gone. Rumors spread, fans speculated, and the truth remained hidden until Wade himself finally spoke out at age 69. What could possibly have forced the fearless explorer to walk away from the show that defined his career? Join us as we uncover more. Jeremy Wade, River Monsters, Meteoric. When you hear the name Jeremy Wade, one image instantly comes to mind. A rugged, soft-spoken British biologist standing waist-deep in a murky river, line cast, waiting for something terrifying to strike. But Jeremy Wade's story begins long before River Monsters became a global phenomenon. Keep watching to find out. Born in Suffolk, England in 1956, Wade was always fascinated by what lurked beneath the water's surface. While most kids were satisfied with catching minnows in streams, Wade devoured books about exotic fish and dreamed of faraway rivers in South America, Africa, and Asia. His father, a vicar, instilled in him discipline and curiosity, while his early education in zoology at Bristol University sharpened his scientific lens. Later, he trained as a biology teacher, even teaching in a secondary school for a time. But his classroom was never enough. The wild rivers of the world called to him. In the early 1980s, Wade scraped together savings for a trip to India. It was there that he hooked into one of the defining fish of his life, the mighty goonch catfish. This wasn't just angling. This was an encounter with a predator that locals whispered about in hushed tones, a fish rumored to drag people into rivers. That single trip laid the groundwork for the kind of storytelling Wade would later perfect, fusing myth, science, and raw adventure into something no one had ever seen before. Jeremy wasn't only a fisherman. He became an explorer, journalist, and detective rolled into one. His articles in angling magazines gained attention, blending vivid prose with scientific curiosity. But his defining leap came in 2009, when Animal Planet launched River Monsters. The show was unlike anything else on television at the time. This wasn't just about catching fish. It was about unraveling mysteries. Each episode began like a crime investigation and ended with Wade pursuing a suspect species, often a massive prehistoric-looking fish. The audience was hooked. From the Congo River to the Amazon basin, Wade tracked down piranhas, stingrays, arapaimas, and Goliath tigerfish with a level of intensity that felt almost cinematic. His calm, deliberate narration made every river sound dangerous, every ripple a potential monster. And unlike other survival or fishing shows, River Monsters always walked the line between fear and respect. Never demonizing the animals, but instead revealing their misunderstood nature. The show became Animal Planet's most watched program in history, airing in over 100 countries. Fans tuned in not just to see what lurked beneath the water, but to witness Wade's quiet determination and almost spiritual respect for his quarry. He wasn't a thrill-seeker chasing adrenaline, he was a scientist pursuing truth. But here's where things get interesting. Because while Wade was the face of River Monsters, few people knew the toll it was taking on him physically, mentally, and emotionally. Years of battling malaria, parasites, venomous bites, and treacherous waters were hidden from the polished final cut of each episode. Wade's life off-camera was often far more dangerous than what made it into the show. And here's the part they've never mentioned on camera, until now. The pilot episode in 2009 set the tone. It wasn't a glossy fishing program, it was styled like a mystery thriller. Wade arrived in India, investigating a series of deaths in rivers blamed on giant catfish. The format was genius, part documentary, part detective story, part survival challenge. Instead of focusing on gear and technique like traditional fishing shows, Wade framed each story as a high-stakes investigation. Was the killer a crocodile, a snake, or something lurking beneath the surface with razor-sharp teeth? Audiences couldn't get enough. Each episode unfolded like a suspense novel. From the Amazon, where Wade confronted massive arapaimas that could knock a man unconscious with a single strike of their tail, to the Congo, where he pursued the infamous Goliath tigerfish with dagger-like teeth. The encounters felt almost otherworldly. And yet these weren't fictional monsters. They were real, living creatures. What set river monsters apart was the way Wade blended science with storytelling. He didn't just show the fish, he explained their role in local folklore, their evolutionary adaptations, and their ecological importance. Villagers would tell tales of spirits dragging people into rivers, and Wade would investigate whether those stories had roots in biological reality. This made the show appealing not only to anglers but also to families, educators, and thrill-seekers alike. The show's cinematography also elevated it. Sweeping drone shots of remote landscapes, slow-motion captures of explosive strikes, and underwater camera angles transformed each episode into something cinematic. Wade's delivery, calm, deliberate, with a touch of foreboding, kept viewers at the edge of their seats. He wasn't screaming into the camera or performing stunts for attention. Instead, his quiet intensity made you lean in closer, like he was letting you in on a deadly secret. By its third season, River Monsters had become Animal Planet's crown jewel. Ratings soared, merchandise sold, and Jeremy Wade became a household name. Kids wrote to him. Teachers used the episodes in biology classes, and anglers saw him as a pioneer who legitimized their passion on a global scale. But behind the accolades, the pressure was mounting. Each season had to be bigger, scarier, and more shocking than the last. Wade and his crew were venturing into increasingly dangerous waters, rivers with crocodiles, jungles with venomous snakes, and regions plagued by disease and instability. Every monster catch wasn't just a spectacle, it was a life-threatening risk. And while fans saw Wade as fearless, the reality was far different. Off-camera, he was enduring infections, exhaustion, and brushes with death that no one ever saw. The show's success created expectations that were nearly impossible to sustain. Viewers may have thought River Monsters was unstoppable. But behind the scenes, something dark was brewing. First, signs of trouble. The huge announcement. At first, the empire of River Monsters looked untouchable. Ratings were strong, audiences were loyal, and Jeremy Wade was the face of Animal Planet across the globe. But like every great story, cracks began to appear, small at first, then widening into something impossible to ignore. It started with whispers among fans online. Some claimed the production budget had been quietly slashed, making exotic expeditions harder to pull off. Others speculated that Wade himself was growing weary. After all, the man had spent years battling parasites, malaria, treacherous rapids, and endless nights in mosquito-infested camps. Could it be that the extreme angler, the fearless adventurer, was simply running out of fuel? The network never gave clear answers. Their official statements were vague, carefully worded, always suggesting new creative directions or schedule adjustments. But there was more to it. Nothing sounded final, but nothing sounded reassuring either. This only fueled the rumors. On forums and fan pages, theories spread like wildfire. Some said Animal Planet executives wanted to move away from risky, travel-heavy shows. Others claimed Wade himself had disagreements with producers over creative control. And then there were the wildest speculations. That an accident had happened on set, or that Wade had suffered a health scare far more serious than anyone realized. Meanwhile, devoted fans noticed changes. The episodes seemed shorter, the locations less remote, the editing slightly rushed. Gone were some of the extended investigations that once defined the series. Instead, the show leaned more heavily on recaps and interviews, almost as if it was preparing to wrap itself up. But Wade himself remained a mystery. Whenever asked directly about the future of river monsters, he would smile politely, avoid specifics, and redirect the conversation back to the animals. It was as if he was guarding a secret, waiting for the right moment to speak. His silence only deepened the speculation. By this point, tension had set in. Fans around the world were desperate for answers. Was the show being cancelled? Was Wade retiring? Or was there something even more dramatic going on behind closed doors? For months, the questions went unanswered. Then, one evening, Jeremy Wade appeared live on air for what seemed like a routine interview. Viewers tuned in expecting another story about exotic fish, perhaps even a tease of upcoming expeditions. Instead, they were about to witness a revelation that would shock the entire fan base. Because in that moment, with cameras rolling and the world watching, Wade finally spoke the words no one thought they'd hear. And then Wade dropped the shocker, live on air. For years, the mystery had built up. Rumors swirled, speculation ran rampant, and silence from the network only made things worse. But finally, at the age of 69, Jeremy Wade broke his silence. And when he did, the truth hit harder than anyone expected. Sitting under the studio lights, Wade looked different from the tireless adventurer fans remembered. His voice was softer, his expression lined with the weight of years spent in unforgiving environments. There was no dramatic music, no build-up from producers, just Wade, speaking directly from the heart. After all these years, he began, pausing for a long breath. We had to shut things down because it simply became too much. The travel, the danger, the pressure. It reached a point where it wasn't sustainable. Not for me, not for the crew. And as much as I love these rivers and the creatures that live in them, I couldn't keep going at the cost of my health and my life. The words stunned the audience. For nearly a decade, Jeremy Wade had been the fearless angler, braving leech-filled waters, torrential monsoons, and predators most people only read about in nightmares. But now, he was admitting the toll. Malaria, infections, exhaustion, these weren't storylines. They were scars, reminders of what he had endured to bring the show to life. His tone wasn't bitter, but it was deeply reflective. He admitted moments of regret, times when he pushed too far, ignored warning signs, or risked his team's safety in the name of capturing one more episode. Wade confessed that he never wanted to quit, but he had to choose between carrying on recklessly or stopping with dignity. Fans watching live described the moment as surreal. Here was their hero, their idol, suddenly humanized, vulnerable, and almost fragile. Yet in his honesty, Wade became even more respected. His decision wasn't framed as defeat, it was framed as survival, as wisdom earned through hardship. But then came the moment that shifted everything from a sad farewell into something much heavier. After admitting the end of River Monsters, Wade leaned forward, lowered his voice, and revealed that there was more to the story than anyone realized. He wasn't just retiring because of age or exhaustion. He hinted at a deeper issue, something that had been hidden from fans for years, something that went far beyond budgets, ratings, or even his health. The truth, he suggested, was far darker, and it was the real reason the show had to stop. Viewers around the world froze, glued to their screens, waiting for the words that would explain it all. Because if the announcement so far had been shocking, what came next would send ripples far beyond the fishing community. What he revealed next might make your heart sink. The announcement stunned viewers, but what came next turned shock into disbelief. Jeremy Wade leaned closer to the interviewer and finally explained the true reason river monsters came to an end. And it wasn't just about age, or exhaustion, or even illness. It was something far more complex. Wade simply said they reached a point where filming the show was doing more harm than good. That single sentence shifted everything. Fans had always seen river monsters as an adventure series, a celebration of misunderstood creatures in some of the most remote waters on Earth. But behind the cameras, Wade revealed, an ethical storm had been brewing. First, there were the rivers themselves. In the early days of filming, remote locations still held their mysteries. Giant fish thrived, untouched by overfishing or pollution. But as the seasons went on, Wade noticed disturbing patterns. Rivers he had visited years earlier now seemed barren. Species once abundant had dwindled to near extinction. Fishermen who once told stories of monsters now spoke of scarcity, struggling to catch enough for their families. Wade admitted that it was heartbreaking. They wanted to spotlight conservation, but their presence sometimes had the opposite effect. A location featured on the show would suddenly attract anglers from around the world. The pressure on those rivers increased almost overnight. Then there was the network. While Wade wanted to emphasize science and preservation, executives began pushing for more spectacle, more drama, more dangerous encounters. Wade resisted, but the demands grew louder each season. Some producers wanted staged sequences or exaggerated risks, things Wade felt would betray the trust of his audience. He refused, but it strained the relationship. And finally, there was Wade himself. Years of exposure to disease, relentless travel, and physical danger had taken their toll. He described moments of lying feverish in remote huts, his body wrecked by parasites. He spoke of near drownings, venomous stings, and a constant battle with infections. Every trip took a piece of him, and eventually there wasn't much left to give. When all these factors collided, environmental decline, network politics, and personal health, Wade faced a decision. Continue under growing pressure, or end the series while it still held its dignity. He said he chose to stop, because I couldn't look his audience in the eye and keep pretending it was the same show. The impact was immediate. Fans were heartbroken, but many understood. Conservationists praised Wade for his honesty, reminding the world that the real monsters weren't the fish, but the forces destroying their habitats. Academics noted that the show had inspired a generation of young biologists, but also highlighted the danger of turning fragile ecosystems into tourist attractions. As for Wade's legacy, the cancellation only made it stronger. He wasn't just a presenter, he was a man willing to walk away from fame and money for the sake of integrity. And yet, his words carried a warning. River monsters had never really been about monsters at all. It was about human impact, about how fragile the balance of nature truly is. It doesn't end here. Consequences and fallout. The revelation spread like wildfire. Social media exploded. Hashtags demanding answers trended for days. Some fans expressed outrage, accusing the network of forcing Wade into silence. Others posted heartfelt tributes sharing how the show had changed their lives, inspired careers, or even helped them overcome fears of the natural world. Fan petitions surfaced almost immediately. One called for a River Monsters revival. Another demanded a spin-off focusing purely on conservation. Within weeks, thousands of signatures poured in, a testament to the show's deep impact. The industry took notice too. Other networks circled, sensing opportunity. Rumors swirled of Netflix, expressing interest in a spiritual successor series. Discovery executives reportedly made calls, asking whether Wade would consider returning in a new format, something less dangerous but still anchored in his unique storytelling. But Wade himself remained cautious. Meanwhile, the cancellation ignited fierce debate in conservation circles. Some experts argued that Wade's honesty about environmental decline had done more for awareness than years of academic reports. Others worried that without the spotlight of river monsters, public interest in freshwater ecosystems might fade. What was undeniable was the cultural void. For nearly a decade, Wade's voice had been the soundtrack to Sunday evenings. His calm narration, a reminder that mystery still lurked in the world's rivers. With his departure, that sense of wonder felt dimmed. And yet the story didn't end there. Industry insiders whispered that powerful figures were lobbying behind the scenes, desperate to bring Wade back. Fans speculated endlessly. Who had the influence to convince him? Which studio had the resources to tempt him? Then the most surprising detail emerged. It wasn't just executives or fans leading the charge. According to insiders, one unexpected person had reached out to Wade privately, pleading for the show's return. And here's where the story takes another twist. After the dust settled, fans couldn't help but wonder what river monsters might have looked like if things had gone differently. Alternate paths were always on the table, though most never came to life. There was talk of a new season with significant changes, fewer dangerous expeditions, more focus on the science and conservation side of fishing, and less emphasis on chasing the biggest and scariest creatures. It could have been a gentler continuation of the show, one that preserved its spirit while protecting Wade and his crew from unnecessary risks. Another idea floated around was a web spin-off, shorter episodes designed for online audiences, showcasing smaller rivers, lesser-known species, and quick conservation lessons. This would have given Wade freedom from the heavy demands of network television, while still keeping him connected to fans worldwide. And then, there were whispers of a pure documentary format, stripped of the thriller structure. This version would have focused entirely on conservation, giving viewers a raw look at how human activity has altered freshwater ecosystems. Wade had long dreamed of creating something that didn't just thrill viewers, but educated them deeply, urging them to see fish not as monsters, but as vital creatures in need of protection. Yet, despite the possibilities, none of these came to pass. The network wanted one thing, Wade wanted another, and in the end, the show ended where it did. Beyond the spotlight, Wade has found value in mentoring. Younger biologists, filmmakers, and conservationists often turn to him for advice. He helps them navigate the challenges of balancing truth, safety, and storytelling, ensuring the next generation can carry on the mission without repeating the mistakes of the past. Despite stepping away from the grueling production schedule, Wade has not chosen a life of pure retirement. He still travels, though less frequently and often in safer conditions. He still studies rivers, still seeks out the mysteries of aquatic life, and still reminds people that the wild world is worth protecting. And while many believe his journey has reached its final chapter, Wade's own words suggest otherwise. But despite it all, he's still not done yet. Do you believe Jeremy Wade made the right choice ending the show when he did? Let us know what you think in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. Also, click on the following videos on your screen. You'll love it.